Today we're looking at a really cool project that allows you to borrow money using your NFTs as collateral. And here to tell us more about it is Simon. Hey Simon, how's it going? And what can you tell us about Arcade.xyz?
Hey Will, today we are talking about Arcade.xyz, which is, as you said, a NFT collateral lending borrowing platform. So the idea is, I guess, similar to your other DeFi lending protocols like your Aves, where you can use your crypto collateral and borrow against it. Now we are using non-fungible tokens. So at the moment, it's predominantly pretty much just NFT pictures, like your Bored Ape Yacht Clubs. They've got some rap crypto punks, some MFers in there. Instead of selling those NFTs to make money from it, you can put it up as collateral and borrow against it. So it's kind of a really cool, unique idea. It's currently only peer-to-peer, but I think it's got some huge potential, and Arcade.xyz has currently done over $100 million worth of loan value. So it's not a small player in the space. It's really starting to get some traction, and it's really getting some interesting results. So I guess, what are some examples, Will, of where and why you would use this?
I think really good use case for it is, like you said, when you have a really cool NFT that you're holding and you want to borrow money or you want to have a bit of liquidity, but you also want to keep your NFT for later. So let's say you've got a CryptoPunk and you want to borrow a couple of $1,000. What you do is you go deposit it there, and somebody essentially holds your NFT as collateral and lends you money. That's on the NFT side. But then on the other side is that, well, what if you've got a bit of money and you want to earn interest off of it? Yeah, you could go to Aave and deposit it there and pretty much do a loan in exchange for Ethereum as collateral. Or you could go to Arcade and deposit your money there and get interest there. Now, the cool thing about Arcade is that the interest rates are pretty high compared to places like Aave. I think I've seen interest rates go as high as 19% monthly APR, which is really nice compared to what you get in Aave, which is maybe 6% or less.
Yeah, and we should probably talk a little bit more about, I guess, the risks that are involved with doing that, though, because the reason why the APRs need to be so high is because there's significantly more risk going on here, because these markets for NFTs are not as liquid as your USDCs and your Ethereum. So the collateral being put up, if the borrower defaults on their loan, the lender can effectively take possession of that NFT and they can go sell it on the open market. But selling NFTs is not quite as simple and easy as it is. And so while the APRs are significantly higher, there's obviously a significant amount of risk going on. And it's peer-to-peer at the moment. So there's no market-making forces in the background here. You need to know what you're doing. And if you go on their website currently and you look at the current loans that are out there, there are people who are being a little bit sharky about it, because I've seen that there's some Bored Ape Yacht Clubs where they're asking for a rather significant amount of Ethereum, well above the floor price for the Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT. So effectively, what I feel they're doing is they're trying to see if they can gullible someone into selling it for them at a much higher price. If the Bored Ape Yacht Club's floor price is 50 ETH and they're asking to borrow 60 ETH, there's a bit of risk involved there. So why is that one worth 10 ETH more? I think some people are gamifying it here, seeing if there's someone who's going to go, oh, I could make 30% APR on this over 30 days, but realistically, it's actually someone trying to offload a Bored Ape Yacht Club for a lot more money. So it's not as simple as just going and lending your money. You've got to know what the NFTs are and why they're valuable. And Arcade does try and help you with that. It does give you links to OpenSea and gives you ideas of floor prices for some of these NFTs, but it still comes down to, borrow and lender beware, I think.
For sure, you've really got to do your research when using this. And for example, if it's a Bored Ape Yacht Club and everyone knows about it and the floor price has kind of been established, then as a lender, you could go ahead and take the risk and lend somebody a significant amount above the floor price. But really, you want to be careful and stay under the floor price. But I think the other risk that could happen is somebody could go out there and spin up their own NFT and generate a volume for their NFT collection, pretty much buy and sell it to themselves over and over and over and increase the price, say, for 20, 30 days, then go over to Arcade and use those NFTs as collateral. At that point, they could just place the NFTs as collateral, and then walk away with the money. And the person who claims the NFT after the money isn't paid isn't able to sell it because really there aren't any buyers. Uh, but which brings me to another question, Simon, is that how do these loan terms work? Is it like Aave or is it a little bit different?
It's very different. So the loan terms are set at the start when the loan is agreed to. So it comes in two ways. The borrower can put up the NFT and state their terms, saying, I want X amount of money. I will give you X plus 5% in 30 days, 60 days. They can set the terms, or they can just say, hey, I have this collateral. Who will offer me something to lend for it? So a lender can come in and say, okay, well, I will give you Y amount of dollars, and Y plus 8% is what you'll give me in return over a 30-day period. So it's set between the two people. There's no market movements behind it. It's simply agreed upon terms at the start. And so that's where the risk comes in, is that if you give more collateral than if you give more money, as you lend them more money than the collateral is actually worth, you're kind of at risk there of the borrower just defaulting on the loan. And as we were talking about before,
Mm.
if you spun up a whole bunch of random NFTs, that are effectively worthless, the lender can definitely get screwed over there. So what I think people really need to grasp here is that there's nothing automated about this. This is simply peer-to-peer, and so people need to be aware of what they're getting involved in here. I mean, to give you an example, I guess, of where this can go, though, and Arcade have actually already done this, because this is just NFTs, but this is where I feel, and this is why I'm excited about this project, is where it can go, because it's not just necessarily NFTs, it's actually real-world assets. And Arcade have actually orchestrated a borrowing against 2 Rolex watches. So the borrower sent
Wow.
2 Rolex watches to a third-party trusted, an escrow kind of type service. That escrow service spun up NFTs on the blockchain, and so I think it was, it might have been, I think it was a bit more marketing thing than a real life loan going on, but someone did lend 14,000 US dollars against these 2 Rolex watches. So really cool to see. Again, we talk about this in many other things where the real world and the digital world start to overlap. So that's the start of it, and so there's still trust in that, obviously, but we could see this going further down the path of decentralized finance here, with real world assets being used as collateral.
People tend to forget that an NFT really is a certificate of ownership. And it's just that when NFTs came out, images became the primary use case. But really, the whole idea is that NFTs should represent the ownership of a non fungible token, like land or diamonds, or like you said, Rolex watches. So seeing a protocol like this out there is really exciting. And especially that they've started to work on proof of concepts of lending and borrowing off of real world assets. And I think it could go beyond even real world assets and images as NFTs, because NFTs could still present ownership of something that is digital. Let's say concert tickets, for example, flights, restaurants. It could be anything really. And it doesn't have to be a photo. It could be something that is actually valued in real life. It could be digital. But at the same time, it could be something that is not as volatile as what we call as image NFTs. And I think this could really go far because even in the blockchains, NFTs represent other things like loans, for example. So now we're getting into the space where we are creating derivatives of financial instruments. So if, let's say, I owed you money, that would be a loan, Simon, but then that loan could be represented by an NFT that pretty much generates the interest from my loan. And that NFT in itself could be traded, and it could even be loaned out in a platform like this. So I think there's so much room for growth in terms of NFTs. And I feel like we're starting to expand beyond images, and we're going to different places now. And here we go. And now we have places where we can use these new different kinds of NFTs that are coming out as collateral, which is kind of really cool and exciting.
Yeah, well, let me throw another example, which is very much so more the digital example of what can happen with this. Is that when you go to Uniswap and you want to be a liquidity provider, say you put $10,000 worth of USD, $10,000 worth of ETH into a liquidity pool. you receive back a token from the Uniswap saying, I owe you this kind of money. This is not necessarily NFT, but then there's the possibility that Uniswap token could then be used as collateral. So you're still earning the fees from your liquidity being inside of the liquidity pool, but now you use that as collateral and borrow against that. Like, it's leverage in many ways when you're starting to do things like that. But this is the kind of things that collateral can be used for, and I think Arcade can help facilitate elements of that. I mean, the huge thing that everyone talks about, NFTs, which is the big future, and how it really kind of helps everyone else, is real estate. Everyone talks about real estate is a great example. It could be on blockchain because it can remove so many of those hurdles of solicitors and the councils that all get involved in these things. And so real estate being used as collateral would be great. Most people are probably kind of used to the concept of, if I've got a house, I can re-borrow against it. That's the same kind of thing. You're going to the bank and saying, hey, I've got my house. It was worth $500,000. It's now worth $800,000. I'd like to borrow another $200,000 against it. It's the same thing that Arcade is trying to allow you to do and trying to facilitate. So I think this is really an interesting thing where the use cases are going to keep coming up, because anything that has value, you could borrow against effectively. That's the idea of what NFTs are. That's the idea of Arcade.
Yeah, and it's amazing seeing all of these things come together through composability. I mean, what these guys have done is they've created a platform, and I suspect what we're going to see in the future is these different kinds of NFTs come up. We're probably going to see them showing up on this platform and actually being the more valuable ones that people want to borrow against or put out loans for. So that's really cool. But moving on, what is the investment opportunity for Arcade? Is there a token out there? Or are we still waiting for it?
That's the interesting one. There's no token out there for Arcade yet, and I haven't really heard any word of whether there will be a token. The founders of this obviously got a significant seed fund raise of about $15 million. So that's currently running the protocol and the project. They currently haven't turned on any fees mechanisms in it. So I think they're trying to, organically grow the protocol and, build that liquidity, build that network effect. But they have very much so stated in a lot of their documentation that fees can be turned on, which means to me, fees eventually will be turned on. So I'm not sure where it's going to go. I'm not sure whether there's going to be an investment opportunity here. They may go down the path of like OpenSea being the biggest NFT marketplace out there. They take revenue and that's it. The company just keeps the money. So there may not be a token because I have not heard much about it. The risk they have there, though, is obviously someone will come along and vampire attack them and copy the code and create one that does have a token. So I suspect, based off the fairly crypto-esque nature of this one, that there will be a token in the future, which means airdrops are definitely a possibility for people using the platform. Revenue coming for token holders is definitely on the cards for it. But I think right now they are trying to build the protocol. They've got enough backing behind them to just try and gain that network effect at the moment. So currently no way to invest in this project.
I'll tell you what, though, if there was a token coming out, it would be one of the ones that I would be quite curious and keen to hold. First of all, just looking at their growth trajectory, they've been around for a while, but then recently the growth has ramped up. I mean, they're still not that big yet. I think it's something to the order of 100 or 200 loans per month, and each loan is an average of $50,000. But then we are talking about a loan industry, and this one is really unique. So this is not another Aave on some new blockchain. This is totally different, and I don't think I've seen this before. So it's definitely something I really want to keep my eye open on, and maybe it's an opportunity to interact with the platform, put an NFT there if I own one, and see if I get a loan or not and pay back in 7 days, whatever. But then that could open up the possibility of airdrops in the future, being an early user. But I would say it's a new and unique product that we haven't really seen before.
Yeah, there's a few of them out there, but this one is significantly higher up as far as loans that have gone out there than any other project that's out there. And I see this going in the future towards an automated market maker kind of element of it. Like, as Aave used to be called ETHLend for people who've been around long enough, and ETHLend was a peer-to-peer lending system. So someone had to put up their collateral and someone else had to agree to the terms, similar to what Arcade is doing right now. But the bigger NFTs out there, and when we start seeing other real-world assets going in there, there may be more of an element of automated market makers. So Bored Ape Yacht Club is a great example because it's probably one of the more liquid NFTs out there, maybe a bit pricey for many people, but you could sell it on the open market fairly quickly, especially if you're selling it underneath the floor price. So I could see this where a Bored Ape Yacht Club could be used up there as collateral, and you could borrow, like 50% of it straight away, automated by the market there. And if the price of the Bored Ape Yacht Club drops too much, then the system would automatically go to OpenSea, sell your Bored Ape Yacht Club to make sure that the lenders don't lose their money. That's where I think this could go in the future. Bored Ape Yacht Club is just an example, but you could do that with other, liquid NFT projects that are out there. And when you bring real world assets in there, oracles can come into play and allow it to happen. So that's where I see this going. So if it gets to that stage where it can automate some of this aspect of it, that's a real game changer. And I think that'll really, it'll explode as far as the project's concerned.
Oh yeah, and it seems to be all about having some ground rules on what kind of NFTs to accept. For example, based on how long the NFTs have been around, how much liquidity they have. So, or it could even just be NFTs that have been voted in by a DAO, which is governed by a token, in which case that specific token becomes really valuable because projects want to own it in order to vote their own NFTs in, I suppose. So there's all sorts of ways that you could probably do this that sound really cool. So yeah, definitely a really cool and exciting project.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, it would still be a peer-to-peer system as well as an automated system because there's way too many NFTs and things to capture entirely in an automated system. So I think there'll always be the two elements of it.
Indeed. Well, I guess that covers it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed learning about Arcade.xyz and all the opportunities you have to get liquidity from your NFTs. Definitely give it a try. It might be a great opportunity to earn an airdrop. And I guess that's all for today. And thank you, Simon. Until next time.
Thanks, Will. And if you've made it this far through the video, please give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a rating, whatever system you're listening to us on, because that obviously helps us get the message out there. Thanks, guys.
Bye.